What's going on, YouTube? Destructible here. Today we're playing Grim Dawn, and now we're taking a look at the Havoc Pyromancer. Excuse me. Anyway, so yeah, this is a dual wield pistol build, one of my first. I've always had trouble with pistol builds for the most part, but I think I finally got one down. So we're going to get in, we're going to go through the items real quick, then the mastery points, and then the celestial powers really fast. I'm just going to breeze through this. We're going to cover some things. I'm just going to say there's a handful of items in here that could be changed. But anyway, let's get into it. So first thing to cover is that we're using the Dark Blaze Garb set. And this is going to be making up for most, if like just it's the build itself. It all revolves around this. So yeah, this first thing to mention is I'm using 2 of the Dark Blaze incinerators, and these give you increased chaos and fire damage. So this is going to be just giving us a whole ton of that damage, and then I'm going to get over into the other things that are converting damage over as well. First thing to mention is we're going to get from 2 of these pistols, we're getting +4 to Blood of Dreg and 4 to Brimstone. And then we've got Void Rounds, which is granted by the item. This is a ranged technique that activates off default weapon attacks, which you'll be doing a lot of. And it just does a big fire chaos bolt thing, and it just does a ton of damage. It looks real cool. And it's basically it. It just has a 15% chance to proc, and it's procking all the time because we're dual wielding these bad boys. So thing to mention is I'm using 2 Void Hearts here, which is giving us +4 to Possession in total between the two, +4 to Possession and +4 to Blackwater Cocktail. It also has a 33% chance on critical attack to reduce chaos resistance by 10% and as well do a little bit of chaos damage. So there's a lot of chaos resistance reduction with this build, and you'll see once we get over into the celestial stuff, you'll see. But anyway, the thing I wanted to mention with this is you're getting a lot of chaos damage. The vitality damage is whatever. We don't really care a whole lot about that. The big reason why I went with 2 of these is because the fire damage being converted into chaos damage. So from this one, just these 2 alone, we're getting just 59% fire damage converted into chaos damage, which is really good considering we're using the Demolitionist, and there's a lot of fire damage from that mastery itself, so you're able to convert a lot of that just flat out damage over. And then we've got the Dark Blaze Headguard right here, which also converts an additional 35%. So if I'm right, between the two, we got 59 plus 35, that's going to be putting us just under 94% fire damage converted into chaos damage. So yeah, that's pretty good. And then also from this helmet, we're getting that +2 to Possession and Brimstone, as well as adding some chaos damage to Fire Strike. And then it converts fire damage and lightning damage from Fire Strike into chaos damage as well. So real good. Then we got the Dark Blaze Source for our amulet right here, which is going to give us some more to Blood of Dreg and an additional point to the Demolitionist, as well as converting the acid damage from Blood of Dreg into chaos damage. So we're just doing a whole bunch of converting over here. And then additionally, the amulet is going to give us a +8% attack speed to Blood of Dreg. And then has that granted skill Unleash Chaos, which you'll be seeing me use a lot. It just does that, and it knocks enemies down. So when they get close to you, you just hit that and knocks them down, does a ton of damage, and you're just having a good time. And then we got another Dark Blaze Incinerator. So here's where I struggled to find some pretty good items. So these could be substituted for something that you may think is better, which is fine. I use the Mythical Mantle of the Black Flame right here, and this is just giving us basically just chaos damage. That was really all I had. And then some a percentage base increase to that offensive ability. Pretty large one, 6% is quite a bit. And as you can see, I got about 3,087 offensive ability, and then with Blood of Dragon, it's 3,350, which is giving us a huge critical strike chance, which is good for some of those procs that proc on critical strike chances. Then we got Mythical Rift Warped Grasp right here. Again, something that's not huge because we're not going to be using Doombolt really, but you could go and pick up Doombolt if you'd like, but it's giving us some chaos damage as well as a couple of points into possession. Other than that, that was the only reason I picked these up, was just to get that chaos damage up. But since you do have a huge fire damage being converted into chaos, you could substitute that for something that would do fire damage, and it could be something better. Again, this is just all I had available. And then I got the mythical Void Walker foot pads right here, which is going to give us some points into two things that we're not going to be using and some more chaos damage. So, as I said, there's quite a bit of that. I'm pretty sure it's just this side. There was a handful of items where I wasn't too keen to show, but this build does really well, so I figured, you know what, it's still time to show it. Anyway, this is going to give us just some movement speed increase, which is pretty good, and then just some resistances and chaos damage. But other than that, nothing too crazy. Real good right here is the mythical blood sigil of Cthon, or Cthulhu, whatever. I'm not sure, to be honest. Which is going to give us some fire and chaos damage, some offensive ability, points into destruction, brimstone, and demon fire, as well as adding some chaos damage into Blackwater Cocktail, and then some chaos damage into Fire Strike, which is good because we use all that. We got the Dark Blaze ammo belt right here. This is going to give us some points into Blood of Drag, Fire Strike, Oculus. It's just the last piece of the set, so yeah, it's real good, everything about it. And then we've got Korvax's Deception right here, which is going to give us just a ton of fire damage and chaos damage, as well as percentage increases to offensive and defensive. And then that +1 to the Demolitionist and Blazing Eruption, which is granted by the item. And it just it does some pretty good damage. I'm pretty sure we got Blazing Eruption right here. And yeah, that's Blazing Eruption right there. We got the mythical Rune Plates of Ignifar right here, which is going to give us some more points into Blackwater Cocktail, as well as giving us some fire damage. And then Wave of Fire, that's going to proc 25% chance whenever you get hit. That procs, but it's nothing too crazy. Lastly, we got the mythical Vestments of Severed Faith. This is going to give us just some fire damage and chaos damage, as well as some offensive ability and an additional percentage increase to offensive ability and demon fire. Also, there's a granted toggle effect that you get from this. This is more of a caster chest. However, it also gives a toggle effect right here, which gives us just a flat-out chaos damage increase and fire and chaos damage. And then healing effects are also increased whenever you have this active, which I do. It's right over here. So, yeah, having that active is pretty darn good. I like it a lot. All right, so now let's move into the Masteries here. So first, we've got Flame Touch, which is another toggle ability, which is going to give you some fire and burn damage, as well as some offensive ability. So it's pretty good. And then we went with Temper, which is going to give you some defensive ability, some physical damage increase. It's not real crazy, but I did put a lot of points into this for that defensive ability. The physical damage and all that's pretty good because there's some damage conversion going over from those as well. So it's not too bad of an idea to pick up. Then we got Blast Shield right here, which is just a 60%. It procs whenever you go below 60%. And it's going to give you some chance to avoid projectiles, a bunch of resistances that aren't going to benefit us too much. It's only really going to give us about a 4% increase to Pierce and Elemental resistances. But yeah, it's nothing too crazy. And then a 490 damage absorption added to attacks as well. And then we're going to get Fire Strike right over here, which is going to be our default weapon attack. This does a bunch of chaos damage and physical damage, as you can see. And then we went with the Explosive Strike next, which is going to do some burn damage and fire damage. And then just add it's a bit of an AoE to this basic attack, or default attack, excuse me. And then Brimstone, which I didn't have to put too many points in because we had quite a bit of Brimstone just passively, which is going to add some fragments that come out from the attacks that do some more fire and chaos damage. And then we went with Searing Strike right here, which increases the crit damage. The total damage modifier is increased by 10%, and then reduced skill energy cost. And then we've got Blackwater Cocktail right here. Blackwater Cocktail is real cool, actually. I don't know if they redid the animation on it or something. Maybe I'm crazy, but it looks really good now. I kind of like it. It does this. Let me see if I could show you. Yeah, it looks really cool. Like, I like that. That looks cool. Anyway, so yeah, we got Blackwater Cocktail right there. It's just a giant chaos fire thing, and it reduces the enemies that get hit by it, reduces their offensive ability as well. And then Demon Fire right here, which is going to add some chaos damage and then increase burn damage to it as well. and then high potency right here, which is going to increase the skill recharge on it, so you're not going to really use it as much, but it increases the duration, increases the radius, increases the total damage, and then reduces the target's physical damage by 18%, which is pretty good to reduce that stat, just in case they get up right next to you. Then we got Vindictive Flame right here, which is another toggle ability, which is going to increase, add some physical fire damage, chance to stun, some health regen, total speed, which is real good. And yeah, it's real good. I'd pick that up definitely. Now we're going to move over into the Occultist right here. And then we got Soleil's Witchfire, which is going to add some vitality and chaos damage to your attacks. And then Consecrated Blade, Consecrated Blade, which is going to convert some physical damage into chaos damage from Soleil's Witchfire right here. And then Second Right, which is going to add some chaos damage and vitality damage, and then give you a little bit of vitality resistance as well. Next we got Possession right here. Moving on to the last two, which is another toggle. This is going to give you a huge increase to chaos damage, 100% skill disruption protection, some chaos resistance, some chaos damage, and then some damage absorption as well. Really good. I would put as many points into this as you can just to bolster your stats up. Lastly, which we maxed out, was Blood of Dreg. This is going to restore 30% of your health whenever you use it, and then it's going to give you a huge increase to your offensive ability, your health regen, and then give you some chaos damage. And then since we have that, neck right here, it's going to give you that 8% attack speed as well whenever you use it. So whenever I activate it, I gain almost 20,000 damage per second, and yeah, it shows. Okay, so now, lastly, we're going to move on into the devotions and just cover these real quick. For those who watch my videos, I just go over these celestial powers and we go through that real quick. So first things first, I got Ghoulish Hunger right here. It's 100% chance at 45% health to activate. Has a pretty long recharge, 30-second skill recharge. Has a 5-second duration. It's going to increase your attack speed if you get below 45% health, and then give you an 80% attack damage converted into health. So, and then some physical resistance. So for about 5 seconds, it's going to give you some time to get your health back up and trying to recuperate and get out of combat, whatever. Then we got Eldritch Fire right here, which is a 15% chance on attack, which I bound to Fire Strike. That just does some fire damage and chaos damage. Has a 4-second duration and reduces that fire and chaos resistance, the chaos resistance by 35%, which is huge. So yeah, real good to grab that. And then we got Fissure right here. Fissure is going to just... This is going to proc off my Void Rounds, and this just does a bunch of things come out of the ground. They do some fire damage. They stun the targets. It branches off into a bunch of fragments, etc. Does a ton of damage. Lastly, we got Meteor Shower right here. Meteor Shower is something that has a pretty... I haven't looked. I know they just did a patch recently, so I'm not sure if some of these things got changed. Has a 3.5-second skill recharge, a 3-second duration, a 30% chance on attack to proc, and it just drops these meteors down from the sky and does a bunch of fire damage, which is being converted into chaos damage. So yeah, that is concluding the setup and all that stuff. I don't think I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but for those, I will have a Grim Tools link below with all of the information there, and you can just take a look at it. And yeah, I'm going to hop into some gameplay footage now so you guys can take a look at that. I know that's what most of you guys want to see. And yeah, if you guys liked it, please leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff, and have a wonderful day.